Good morning, and thank you for tuning into the Andrew Tate Show, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We've got a great show for you guys today. We're going to be covering the SEC and the Big Ten would have left the CFP if the new contract wasn't reached. We'll also be touching more on the FSU and ACC trial. We'll also be talking about what it means for the Pac-12 to be classified as a non-autonomous FBS conference, and make sure you guys stick around for later in the show. We'll be diving into Caitlin Clark and her record-breaking jersey sales. Before we start, though, I wanted to ask that you guys like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donation link with your question. The tips and donation link is gsmcpodcast.net. This just puts your question at the top of the list so I can see it, and it also really helps the show. Hello, Tate. How are you?
How are you doing this morning?
I'm good.
I'm a little lighter on the hair
Yeah,
this week today.
I was going to comment on that.
I'd gotten a little too scruffy, so you were making me look bad. So I'm like, I gotta step up my game a little bit here.
Yeah.
And then pretty much I was checking out some of the NBA games yesterday, which was kind of interesting because a number, you always talk about how a series really doesn't start until someone loses a home game. Well, it happened. The Clippers lost to the Mavericks, even in their series of one game apiece. That's going to be a great series. That's a 7-game series. And then Indiana blowing out the Bucks by almost 20, but I think it was about 7 by 17. I have it being, I still predict the upset on that one. So I got the Pacers actually beating the Bucks. The Bucks without Giannis, that's a tall order for the Bucks to overcome the Pacers without Giannis. So that was kind of interesting as well. So I was checking out the games, but we have other things to talk about today. So it's not going to be it's not all basketball. The last few days have been just all basketball.
Yes, strictly
I still
basketball.
wanted to sprinkle in a little acknowledgement that the NBA playoffs are going on. But we have other things to talk about.
Yes, we have mainly college football today.
Yes, it's pretty much you could tie it all to all of it's college, really.
Well, I mean,
The
I
last
guess
one,
technically, but it's about
Caitlin's
NBA,
going from
the
college
NBA.
and now being drafted, and we're talking about that one too. So, all right, what do you have for me?
So the SEC and the Big Ten would have left the CFP if the new contract wasn't reached. Prior to reaching an agreement on an expanded college football playoff last month, the NCAA was reportedly facing the danger of losing the SEC and Big Ten from the postseason. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and the Big Ten Commissioner Tom Petitti told Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports that a pivotal meeting 2 years ago would have been the breaking point. Absolutely, Sankey responded when asked if the SEC would have left the CFP. When we ended that set of meetings in January of 2022 without a decision, I was clear. If you are going to walk away from this opportunity, we are going to reevaluate our position on format, revenue sharing, and governance. Notre Dame's athletic director and the 10 FBS commissioners who led the college football playoff are set to meet on Tuesday in Dallas for their annual 2-day spring summit, which will be the first time they met since they reached an agreement on the new CFP television deal, revenue distribution model, and format. Under the new revenue model, the SEC and Big Ten are making a combined 58% of all CFP cash, Dellinger noted. The deal was necessary to keep both conferences in the fold. I think we felt confident that we were willing, if we couldn't craft a deal, that we would look at other options. We would have to start over, Petitti said. Without seeing a better alignment, we weren't going to sign. We were 100% confident and made it clear that we were only going to do that deal that worked for us. Dellinger pointed to a January 2022 meeting over a proposed expansion format as the pivotal moment that led to the current power share by the SEC and Big Ten. When discussions grew heated, some people left the meeting due to frustrations over the lack of progress. The recent era of conference realignment eventually led to the SEC and Big Ten becoming modern super leagues, so their demands eventually had to be met. Sankey added, "People called me after the latest deal and said, 'Why did you guys take a hard line? Why did you put us in this position?' I said, 'You guys walked away from the deal.'" So,
okay, this shines some light on things that even I didn't know about. The way it sounds to me, and I've been looking at some other places where they've been talking about it as well, and other people who've interviewed them, is that in 2022 there was a deal proposed that would have expanded playoffs. It would have been even. Everyone would have had an even, ACC would have got in, Big Ten, the Big 12, everyone would have got in evenly. There wouldn't have been, it would have been like a nice even split of revenue. And it sounds like members from the ACC, Big 12, back then Pac-12, wanted other things. So much so that they were so caught up in what they wanted, they didn't think about what was best for college football. So much so that one of the members decided to pack up and walk out. From that point, according to Sankey and the rest of the guys that are talking about this, they're saying, okay, they walked out on this, so we're going to rethink things. We're going to look at things and say, what's best for us? Before, it was always going to be even, laid out the way it's always been, but expanded playoffs. And other people had other agendas going on. And one of them was like, we want to address player safety and this, and these are all things that could have been talked about later. They were just trying to get a college football program playoff format in. And some of the other people that were involved were so hell-bent on getting their own personal agendas taken care of for what they wanted. They didn't think about what was best for college football and ended up walking out. The SEC decided, you know what? We're going to reassess things. We're going to look at what's best for us going forward. They talked to the Big Ten. Big Ten kind of felt the same way, which then brought us to where we're at today, where the SEC and the Big Ten are like, listen, we dominate this program. We tried to do it the regular way. They're the ones that didn't want to do it. So now we're going to do it. They have their agenda. Now we're going to put our agenda in place, which is the Big Ten and the SEC are the two biggest conferences. The SEC has been a little bit more successful. There's no competition when it comes to when you're watching television. The Big Ten's viewership is exponentially larger than everyone else's, including the SEC. I sent you a chart with that showing you before. I think I sent that to you some time ago. It was just a message. It doesn't matter. But the Big Ten overwhelmingly has the viewership. Plus, they've won. They're always in the playoffs. They're some of the best teams in football. And so it allowed the Big Ten and SEC to just say, you know what? We're going to look out for us. And which rolls into what we have today, which everyone is trying to leave the other two conferences and get to the Big Ten or the SEC. And they're saying, listen, we want more teams getting selected. We want multiple, automatic bids. We want majority of the money. 56% of the money needs to come to the Big Ten and the SEC, and then everybody else can have the rest. The other 44% is divided between everyone else. And according to this could have been all avoided in 2022 if some people would have just stepped back and said, forget about my personal agendas that I want to push through. let's get the program, let's get the college football part taken care of, and then move forward. From there, also, it sounds like after that meeting in 2022, when they were looking at people walking out, and people, other people, kind of having their own agendas, it kind of seems like to me that's when the Big Ten and SEC started thinking about, like, hey, do we just break away from these guys, and do we start our own playoffs? And if we don't start our own playoffs, the next time we talk about playoffs, it's going to be slanted toward us, and we're going to get the lion's share, or there's nothing at all. We'll just walk away and form a new conference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like that meeting in 2022 is the watershed moment that changed college football to where it's at today. Because I felt like after watching this, I think the Big Ten and SEC were okay with, hey, we got a great television deal, but our format should be every conference champion gets into the playoffs, and then it's just the at large bids are, the highest ranked teams get a group of 5 team in there. It looks like that was the plan, but sometimes personal agendas get in the way of it, and I feel like it changed everything. What was your take after reading the article? How did you see it?
I mean, I wasn't I wasn't necessarily shocked by this news. The SEC and the Big Ten seem to have always been the ones trying to get the most amount of money and everything like that, because obviously they do dominate with viewership and everything like that. So I wasn't shocked reading this. I think honestly I'm a little shocked that after reading this, that they are still a part of the NCAA. Honestly, that's how I felt about it.
Here's the scary thing. The NCAA takes a lot of heat from these universities.
Mm-hmm.
The NCAA is very necessary because the NCAA deals with things that the other universities don't want to have to bother with. They handle a lot of the old class action lawsuits and all the different issues that come up so that the universities and the chancellors don't have to deal with it. That's kind of one of the things about the NCAA. That's the reason why so many universities are so reluctant to leave the NCAA. Because, yes, the SEC and the Big Ten, let's say they leave, then now they have to handle all these different lawsuits. Players get injured, all the different insurance issues, any federal regulations that come against them, everything they have to handle. That's the NCAA's job. Colleges and conferences' jobs are just to take care of their schools, get their games played, schedule, do the basic stuff that you do in running a season, whether it's basketball, baseball, gymnastics, it doesn't matter. The schools handle that. But a lot of the dirty work that a lot of schools and chancellors don't want to do, that's where they are. The NCAA is so necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And now universities and schools are going to would have to handle a lot of that on their own, which right now they don't have to. But I was more surprised that, because the Big Ten SEC has been kind of painted as the bad guy. And this article kind of shows, like, hey, we were on board with all of us being kind of treated, my take on it, equal, that, each conference gets a bid, things of that nature. But after 2022, that's when it changed. I kind of felt like, while reading this article, it was more like, and also I'm looking at other other articles, other shows, and things like that nature, and getting their views as well. So I've gotten a lot of places where I've gotten information at this. After this meeting, that's when the SEC decided, hey, I'm looking out for myself. They're looking out for themselves. It's time that we start looking out for ourselves. And they're not going to like what we do. And so then they reached out to the Big Ten. Big Ten was on board. And then these other conferences, ACC, Big 12, the other schools are kind of like, hey, why did you turn on us? And it's like, hey, we didn't turn on you. You guys turned on us back in 2022. You set the standard. We just excelled at it. They knew they had the power. These other people thought they had the power, but it's a big difference between thinking you have the power and actually having the power. And the Big Ten and SEC is now showing the power, the prestige, everything's on their side, and they're going to start looking out for what's best for them. And I think it really hurt college football. And I think some of, walking out of that meeting, I think it's changed football forever in many ways.
See, I disagree with that. When I was reading
come
this,
on, let me fire away. I'm loving this. This is good.
when I was reading the article, I do not feel like this painted the Big Ten and the SEC in a better light. Because
Okay.
from the quotes that were pulled, the Big Ten's commissioner said something. Without seeing better alignment, we weren't going to sign. We were only going to do a deal that worked for us. So from what it sounds like, what it sounds like to me reading this is the Big Ten and the SEC have only been looking out for themselves and not really taking into consideration the other conferences. Now, I understand that they make more money and they get more viewership and everything like that. But for me, it feels like the SEC and the Big Ten have really only cared about themselves, and not have really taken into consideration the other conferences. I feel like it's always been it's me or them type of mentality with them. That's how I feel about it.
See, and I understand where you're coming from and where you read that from. I got the vibe when you look at this article and other things is this happened after 2022. After 2022, it was like, you know what? We're only going to sign a deal that benefits us. Once the guy, I think it's the guy from the Pac-12, walked out of the meeting, and once he walked out of the meeting, that's the vibe I got was from that point on, the Big Ten and SEC is like, we're not signing any deal that doesn't benefit us, even if it means we have to leave, the NCAA. That's how I got it. You didn't see it that way, or
I don't view it that way. No.
That's kind of cool. See, I love it that you don't. There's the great thing about this is we're both taking in the same information, and so you think I'm not my job. I'm not here to convince you that I'm right and you're wrong, or vice versa. I wanted to know, when you're reading this, do you see that it seemed like before 2022 there was a deal in place, and it wasn't about what's best for the Big Ten and SEC until afterwards? You don't see it that way, or?
Me personally, no, I don't see it that way. As much as I am a big SEC fan,
I know you are.
We all know that I am a diehard Georgia Bulldog fan, but I don't know. The SEC and the Big Ten just seem so selfish, and I've been able to see that.
Can I ask this question real quick? Or I'm going to let you finish this. Your feelings on this, is this what you just kind of what you have from, what you see has happened now? Or are you saying from reading that article, you felt like they were selfish even before, because I didn't get that from the article.
I feel
That's why I was asking.
I feel it's both. That's just, like I said, I'm a huge SEC fan, but I feel like the SEC and the Big Ten have very selfish tendencies, and they only want to get the most amount of money because that's what's going to benefit them, and they're not. I mean, because we've had discussions about the Super League and everything like that too, and that would fix all the issues that are going on in college football right now. And obviously we've said that the SEC and the Big Ten just aren't going to do that because they're going to lose out on money. They're not going to have all the power that they have right now. So I don't know.
And you know what? Taking your approach, one of the hardest things to do in the world is take power from someone or have someone relinquish power. Power corrupts more than anything. Money is the second most powerful thing. You can get people to separate from money, but power is a hard thing to separate from. You give someone money and power, that makes it twice as hard. And so I can see where you're coming from, because those are the two most powerful, influential leagues and wealthiest leagues in college football. The thing that surprises me the most through this whole thing is still Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been quiet. They don't mind taking a little less money as long as they can stay independent. We're still like a tick below the Big Ten and the SEC, but they've been pretty quiet through all of this. That's the one who shocked me the most. I thought they would be one of the more vocal universities, but they've been super quiet as well. I love how your take on things, because I can see how you see this, especially going to an SEC school, understanding how things are. It gives you a different view and take on some of these articles. So I think that's fantastic that you know your opinion on that one. So, all right.
Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're still going to be in the college football world, and we'll be discussing the latest on the FSU and ACC lawsuit. So make sure you guys stick around, and we will be back in a minute.